Here, blessings to each and every one of you guys. Peace to you all from the Most High. The Most High always comes first. And we're going to talk a little bit about Restore the Snyderverse. And we're also going to talk about Free Palestine. And we're going to do this in a very interesting way. We're going to talk about why. Why do we restore the Snyderverse? Why do we free Palestine? And why? What's the importance and significance of these two things? So let's get into it. Let's start off with why restore the Snyderverse. Mask Zorro on Twitter put out this. This is in response to this statement that was made. And the statement says, the top two worst directors of all time. If you enjoy watching garbage, then feel free to watch their movies. And this is Entertainment Biz, also known as Rizzy Azad, I believe his name is. And shout out to Rizzy. And Rizzy, as well as myself and several other people, are very vocal on Twitter about James Gunn and Josh Whedon. And some people, of course, extremely offended by Rizzy's statements about these two directors. What I will say about these two directors is they have been very successful at Marvel, at the MCU movies. So the Marvel movies and the MCU movies, which are overseen by Disney, they both were very successful with that. Of course, Joss Whedon is known for the Avengers, the first Avengers movie, and I believe he did the second Avengers movie, which was Age of Ultron, and then he was fired. James Gunn is known for his Guardians of the Galaxy movies. This is his sole successful directorial set of movies, and he did really well with that. He's a guy that's offbeat. Likes the ragtag kind of team of characters. This is his thing. His spiel is that. So that's basically James Gunn, and that is Josh Whedon. Now we can't say that these guys weren't successful directors. That's a no. But what we can say is their success that they had at Marvel was not replicated in their dealings with DC, and neither of them so far can get that excitement that is necessary to excite the entire fan base of DC fans, and not only the DC fans, but the general DC audience that comes to watch DC. They have not been able to successfully do that for several different reasons, but both of them have not had good run-ins with DC. And me, quite frankly, I would say as a DC fan, and not so much a Marvel fan, but a DC fan, because I grew up watching DC, following DC. I'm more of a DC person for around about 40 years. That me being a DC fan and knowing what DC used to bring to the table, I don't see them as good DC directors. And quite frankly, I don't understand why Warner Brothers made the very bizarre decisions to hire either of them. I believe Warner Brothers wanted to have a lighter, more humorous DC, and they did so by just directly firing Zack Snyder. I say firing. I think they seriously dabbled with David Ayer's work, even though David Ayer's sucking their, is really kissing them right now, kissing them on their foot and their butts. He's a butt kisser, which is why I've stopped talking about the Ayer cut. Patty Jenkins was supposed to be a director who was supposed to do a Marvel movie, the Thor movies. She ended up instead doing Wonder Woman, and she was the best suited person, in my opinion, to do Wonder Woman. There was a story already that Zach had put down. I think that you will see some of that story, or at least some of the things that Zach wanted to do with Wonder Woman. I think we're going to see it in Twilight of the Gods with one of the protagonists of that series. But having said that, I do believe she was a good fit for DC. I just think that she didn't have the right guidance and direction as to where that universe should have gone. She tried to also go the Marvel route, and she, being a big fan of Richard Donner, she tried to actually bring back Richard Donner's way of doing things without really the in-depth understanding of what Richard Donner was doing. And if Richard Donner was in these times, he obviously used different strategies and methods. But she decided to rehash that literally, and it was a disaster with Wonder Woman 1984. So I always felt like, in terms of her and what she wanted to do, I think Patty's not a slouch. She's not a slouch in any way, shape, or form. But I do believe that I don't think that she and Jeff Johns were a good match, quite frankly. I think that Jeff Johns constantly undermined her, and I think she had to fight for No Man's Land against Jeff Johns. I think Jeff Johns was going to kill that and probably steal it and carry it across to Marvel. So anyway, but the point is, these two directors are Marvel directors, okay? Warner Brothers constantly looking to Marvel to market their DC brand. And the idea behind it is one in which Jeff Johns kind of sort of alluded to once or twice, that they really want to do a Marvel DC crossover. And they were so desperate to do that they're trying to mix the tones of Marvel and DC, get those tones down. And so they sabotaged Zack Snyder's Snyderverse to get that. And to me, it's one of the dumbest things. And they thought actually they achieved success with Aquaman, but they didn't. What they actually didn't understand was that there was an undercurrent that Jason Momoa, because he was supporting the Snyder Cut and its release, that undercurrent spilled over. I didn't go watch Aquaman. I thought it was a pile of shit, and I thought it was changed up. And quite frankly, the fans got the fans that support DC, the Snyder fans that support DC, because what you have to understand is the majority of fans of DC are Snyder fans. They're not any other fan. They try to say Gunn is bringing his fans to the table. Yeah, they can't get a movie to break even, far less make profit. Okay, so the Gunn fans that they talk about, they're mostly imaginary, and they're nothing. They're like a drop in the bucket compared to the Snyder fans, and there are a lot of Snyder fans all over the place. Okay, so particularly the DC Snyder fans are the ones that are not supporting DC right now. Okay, they have been treated the worst out of all the fandoms of DC. They paid tribute to the Christopher Reeve fans. Warner Bros. Has given the Christopher Reeve fans, they gave them Justice League 2017. They gave them The Flash. And they gave the Gunn fans the Suicide Squad. They gave these fans what they wanted. And some people will say, well, Warner Bros. Gave the Snyder fans Zack Snyder's Justice League. Now, we had to beat down the walls of hell for that. We spent 4 years fighting the fight to get that film out there. And even Restore the Snyderverse is going to go on its 4th year next year. This year, we're 3 years in, and we're going into a 4th year. And mind you, it's not just the Snyder fans that want this. It's DC, the audience that watches DC, which don't necessarily be Snyder fans, they be casual people who watch DC. They want this. Okay, there's a different. You have to understand the difference between a DC audience and the MCU audience, or even more the Disney audience, or even more so the Marvel audience. We're separating it into many different things. In terms of the Marvel audience, you have Marvel audience fans who like Deadpool. They like the X-Men. Those fans are not necessarily the MCU fans. And I can tell you right now, those Marvel fans are not particularly fond of the fact that those properties are now integrated under Disney. They don't particularly like that. Okay, they didn't like what Disney did to X-Men. You remember the highly anticipated New Mutants that was supposed to be a fantastic film It was being developed by Fox, and then Disney took over Fox, and that shit went to shit. Okay. We also have Sony, the Sony arm of entertainment that also part of Marvel properties. So when we talk about Marvel, we're talking about separate things. And even though Disney's been trying to sort of, um, you know, compile all these different forms of Marvel into one under one umbrella, it isn't really, fans are not necessarily taking too lightly to that. And so, when you say Marvel fans, you have to be very careful what you're saying, because there are Marvel fans who are fans of DC, but they grew up on Marvel and read Marvel comics, and they actually like both DC and Marvel, but they don't like certain versions of Marvel. And then you have Marvel fans who love everything in Marvel, and then they may even like some things in DC, but they prefer Marvel. And then you have DC fans who might like things in Marvel, and they may like some things in DC. So when you talk about Marvel and DC fans, it's a lot. It's a lot to talk about. But what I would say is the majority of DC fans do not like the MCU. They don't. They hate it. And the majority of the DC audience, that is the audience that comes to see DC films, really find it insulting, and they don't really appreciate films where there's a lot of jokes, empty jokes, fabricated jokes. They don't really like that. They don't appreciate that. They like serious tone movies. And if you look in the history of DC, other than Aquaman and maybe Shazam, the first Shazam movie, you will see that the majority of DC films, and particularly comic book heroes DC films, have been very serious toned or dark. To be quite frank, they've been dark. So DC fans, or the audience at least that comes to see DC, they expect certain things of DC. Okay, so maybe your movie's not dark, but you take the characters seriously, and you carry the director someplace we've never went with them, and we learn things. Because in DC, it's about depth. Marvel's not really about depth. It's not the MCU at least. I would say that Sam Raimi's Spider-Man had some depth to it, had some emotional depth to it. Was not a hee hee ha ha film. Blade, which they can't replicate. Marvel, the MCU cannot replicate it. Again, there's the serious tone to it. There's the darkness to it. There's the grittiness to it. There's the great acting in it. It's hard to replicate that. There's a certain potion, a certain concoction involved there. You look at I'm not a fan of the Hulk series. The best looking Hulk I've seen is actually the MCU Hulk, but he just don't behave like the Hulk, but he looks like the Hulk. The more serious tone Hulk movies are better than the MCU Hulk movies. Spider-Man, again, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, I prefer over the MCU Spider-Man. I really don't appreciate the MCU Spider-Man. So when we talk about, Marvel films, the earlier Marvel films, Captain America, the first Avenger, the Winter Soldier, Iron Man, the very first Iron Man, these were, in my opinion, the best of Marvel. Everything else, to me personally, I don't appreciate it. Okay. So when we talk about Joss Whedon and when we talk about James Gunn, these two guys, Whedon was the guy to create the first $1 billion film for the MCU. Okay. He was the first guy to do that. James Gunn has never done a $1 billion film, but he brought in what really typifies Marvel to this day, and probably the blueprint for Marvel in terms of the MCU, and the pathos and comedy. He brought this ragtag group of individuals who nobody really knew, and he made a great series out of it. And Marvel kind of bases its stuff around what James Gunn actually did under the direction of Kevin Feige. Now, I want to make this abundantly clear. These two guys did some things which were noteworthy, and therefore I don't consider them like what Entertainment Biz says, I don't really consider them. What does he say about them? He says this. He says, top two worst directors of all time, right? He considers them the worst directors of all time. I don't consider them the worst directors of all time. You have to give respect where respect is due. They have accomplished some things that, you know, stand out. And it's something that you have to, what I would say though, is they are two of the worst directors of all time when it comes to DC. I mean the atrocity. Let's not kid ourselves. Warner Brothers did a great job of tearing down DC themselves from the very beginning. You know, when they cut the runtime on Batman v Superman, you know, and didn't allow Zack Snyder to really show his true vision, which was 3 hours long. When they changed up David Ayer's Suicide Squad, you know, when they changed Patty Jenkins' ending of her Wonder Woman movie, you know, these kinds of things the studio is guilty of. But then also they're guilty of hiring Josh Whedon to rewrite almost the entire of Zack Snyder's Justice League and reshoot it. And it created it's probably one of the greatest stains on DC in the early runs of DC, because Justice League was supposed to cross $1 billion. It was. And the way how Zack Snyder was going and the hype behind it, it was going to do that. It was with certainty it was going to do that. And that's why the movie even grossed, even though it flopped, it grossed so much money, because it was something that was highly anticipated and everybody was waiting for this movie. And on top of that, Zack Snyder was delivering. And we knew there was no way this movie wasn't making $1 billion. And then this guy was brought in by Jeff Johns, who is another snake in the business that we have to talk about. And this guy completely ruined the movie. I mean, ruined the movie. He came in with I forgot what the musician was that did the soundtrack for the movie. And I mean, I say this in 2020 hindsight, that movie's a disaster. It's a walking, talking disaster. Okay? That movie cost Warner Brothers $86 million. It's probably more than that, because, you know, that movie cost, I think, about over $300 million with reshoots. So it's probably way over that, right? But we conservative figure $86 million. Now, the execs, they didn't lose any money. You know, they got their, you know, their bonuses and so on. So they profited off of it. The company suffered. Okay? They did well. It's called upward failure. And it was spoken about by the great late Christopher Lee. So, you know, the company did exceptionally well. You know what I mean? But with respect to the people there, you know, the people there, no, the company didn't do exceptionally. I mean, the executives did exceptionally well, but the company did not. The company suffered. I mean, it's just been atrocity after atrocity. And James Gunn is also involved in the atrocities of WB, coming in under Walter Hamada and doing the great flop, The Suicide Squad. And, you know, people try to make excuses for it. You know, The Suicide Squad, it was in COVID in 2021. It was a rated R film. Okay. So how do you explain the devil made me do it? What is it called? The fuck it. I never remember the word. Hold on, I'm gonna tell you what it is. I'm gonna tell you what it is. Hold on a second. I don't know why I can't remember it right now. It's at the tip of my finger. I just can't remember what the name of it is. It'll come to me though. It's it begins with C, but I just can't remember the word. James Wan been doing these movies. I forgot what it's called though. It's part 1, part 2, and it's part 3 with The Devil Made Me Do It. I just can't remember what it is. Hold on a second. It'll come to me. It'll come to me. It'll come to me. It's coming to me, but it's just not coming enough, you know. It's the something The Devil Made Me Do. I can't remember what the name of it is. Hold on a second. I might get it. It's not The Fucking Hunting. The fuck. Where the hell that came from? Hold on, it'll come to me. I'll get it. The Conjuring. There it is. The Conjuring. The Conjuring. Devil made me do it. I knew I'd get it. All right. The Conjuring. The Conjuring. Devil made me do it. The Conjuring. Devil made me do it. Actually, was streaming on HBO Max, and that movie I believe made $106 million for both Warner Brothers distributors and also New Line Cinema, which it came from. So it's one of those things where we listen to people talk, and usually when these people talk, they don't know what they're saying, man. They just don't know what they're saying. Not only The Conjuring, but we also had Godzilla versus Kong, which made, I believe, $26 million for Legendary, as well as Warner Brothers Pictures profit. Okay? But James Gunn's movie didn't even make its budget back, y'all. Didn't even make its budget back. So, I mean, I just listen to people talk, man. People be talking. That's all they be doing and making excuses. And by the way, The Conjuring was rated R, of course. It's a horror film, so it's rated R. So it's like you're making excuses for James Gunn's big flop. He flopped. I don't care what the critics say. He flopped. And the critics don't mean diddly squat in this day and age. It's what do your films make money or don't make money? If people want to come and see your films and they're interested in seeing your films, that's all that matters. So with respect to James Gunn and with respect to Joss Whedon, when it comes to DC, they are atrociously terrible. They are amongst the most terrible directors out here. So I wanted to share with you guys something else. So the same guy Entertainment Biz, he came out and he said, I don't care what anyone says, but Man of Steel is and will be the best Superman movie ever made. Nothing ever will come close to it, and that's a fact. Now, I don't know about that, but what I can say is he's speaking absolutes, right? But the important thing to say here is this movie is 11 years old, and man, it still resonates with people. It's still a great movie, and that's incredible to say. What Marvel movie you can say that's 11 years old and it's still resonating with people? People still talking about it. People still think it's a movie that changed their lives. There's no Marvel movie like that, none, and that's because they're superficial. So this guy, I want to deal with some of the trolls on here. Yucky is a troll, and I want to show you guys who Yucky is. So here's Yucky. Yucky's been there since April 2021. He has 344 of his following, and he has 313 followers. And Yucky looks at different kinds of movies and stuff. This is DC here. And Mighty Mouse. I ain't seen Mighty Mouse in a long while. But anyway, Yucky said this. I'll never forget when Zod throws a gas truck at Superman. He flies over it so it can explode into a building. That's why it's the worst Superman movie ever made. So he's saying it's the worst Superman movie ever made. I said, I guess you never picked up a comic book nor watched any CBM animation at all. He said, you got me. I wanted to show you something, though. Another guy, he responded to that. He said, I have. That's how I know real Superman would have tried to catch it or redirect it and keep it from potentially killing people. I don't know why he thinks, first of all, that in the heat of battle, Superman would do something like that. But anyway, disregarding the fact that Superman's in his first day on the job and all of that, I showed him something. Yucky said, do you notice how in the cartoon he never flies out of the way? That's the issue. He flew out of the way of the gas tank in Man of Steel. And I showed him this. Why don't we watch it together? Not sure why this is doing that. There you go. Come on, motherfucker. Move out the fucking way. Move up. What the fuck is wrong with this stupid thing, bro? Oh my god. This is supposed to move out the way, but it's not moving out the way. I don't know why that's happening. Move! Try this. Nope. This is not supposed to block. Well, anyway, what the fuck? Sometimes you just have to wonder what the fuck is going on. Why don't you disappear, shithead? Why are you doing that? Why the hell is this pop? Oh. Is this supposed to move out the way? I'm not supposed to be seeing these quotation marks and all this shit in my GIF. Hold on a second. There you go. Leroy Kong says, "Hello to you. Great live. I freely admit I suck at video games." Well, I'm not in a video game right now, but the problem I'm having is, for some reason, this stupid thing is just playing up its complete and utter ass right now. It's showing everything but what it's supposed to be showing. Which is really weird. So anyway, I'm going to show you guys something. So here, let me move this out the way here. Okay. All right. So here he is. This is Superman versus the Elite. And Superman's getting out the way of the stuff that's being thrown at him. So the same argument that the guy is making, that Superman doesn't get out, he got out the way of the truck where he would block things. He's not blocking anything there. Right? And it's smashing into buildings and damaging people. The second point is, here's Superman. The guy finally gets to him and smashes some stuff into him, and he just blows the stuff apart there. And you see the pieces flying at people. You see Superman's in a crowded city street right away. Yeah, Leroy, it's a great animated movie. And pieces of that debris, guess what happens? It falls on Lois Lane. Or almost falls on her, at least. Okay? So all this talk about, Superman, he shouldn't have gotten out the way of the truck. Well, yes, Manchester Black. There you go. You know it, Leroy Kong. You've seen this animation before. All this talk about Superman getting out the way, with the truck in Man of Steel. Well, obviously he hasn't watched enough cartoons and animation series and comics, because Superman gets out of the way of certain things at times. He does. And on top of that, Superman's fighting Manchester Black, who is part of the Elite. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? He's splattering things all over the place. Okay? And people have to rush out of the way of stuff. And we don't know who died and who didn't die, because this is animation, so we don't really know. And he's smashing buildings, and Manchester Black is smashing buildings. I remember when Superman was fighting his evil Kryptonian counterpart, okay, in an animated feature. And the evil Kryptonian counterpart throws him through some buildings. We don't know if people were in those buildings. We don't know if those people died. Yeah, he lobotomized the guy's organ. That's how he took away his powers and therefore was able to defeat him. Yeah, I know Leroy Kong. Shout out to Leroy Kong in the building. I really wanted to do a joint stream with you, Leroy, but I wanted to show people some stuff. So that's why I'm going through this. So, it's one of these things where people who don't know anything about DC, I've been a DC fan on and off for the better part of 40-something years, okay? I grew up on DC. I didn't grow up on Marvel, even though I used to read Star Wars comics, and I used to read, Incredible Hulk comics, Thor, Captain America. I wasn't really a Marvel fan, okay? I was more of a DC fan. And what was on TV at the time, besides G.I. Joe and some other Marvel stuff, was mostly DC films, right? And mostly DC series, mostly DC animation. I grew up on DC. Of course, it was always Spider-Man, but Spider-Man and the Hulk. But, I grew up on DC. So when you talk about, you start to talk about DC with me, and I've done my breakdowns and I've done my analysis on DC, and you're trying to convince me that this is not Superman, or that is not Superman, or this is not Batman. You got to understand, I've read a lot of DC comics. A lot of DC comics. I may not be up to speed with the most modern DC comics, but I read a lot of DC comics. And then Leroy Kong, you are very versed in DC yourself. So you would know, and you'd be able to bear me witness. You know what I mean? A lot of these guys who claim to be these big DC fans and all of that, you know, they're people who don't really know DC like that. Right? And the thing about it is, when Zack Snyder came with DC, he came from a lore perspective, meaning not only was he looking at DC, but he was looking at where this stuff came from even before DC existed. So he was coming from a lore perspective, which is, why do people like these characters? Why do these characters appeal to people? So from that kind of forensic point of view, Zack Snyder was really the perfect guy to do the job. So the question is, why restore the Snyderverse? Well, let's just keep it moving a little bit more. Let's talk a little bit more. And Leroy Khan, I wish you were here, bro, because I would have loved to, don't forget to smash the like button, Leroy Kong, if you're watching this. I would have loved to have a dialogue with you because you're a DC fan. You're not necessarily a Zack Snyder fan. Leroy Kong says Zack Snyder knew what he was doing. Yeah, exactly. He knew exactly what he was doing. You know what I mean? But you know, we're gonna get more into it here. So let's roll on a little bit because I've got a lot of stuff to talk about. Aaron Fisher said, it's safe to say the amount of characters in Superman film is now ludicrous. And Aaron Fisher just did a little bit more on what James Gunn is planning.
All right, everybody, I am back with a brand new DC update.
This is Aaron Fisher,
for those who don't know. Quite a few things over the last couple of days.
I don't want to get a copyright strike, so I'm going to just move this out of here.
Both Disney and Star Wars and Warner Brothers, so we'll say Warner Brothers and Disney, they are definitely keeping my channel busy with the stuff to talk about because it is just amazing to me. The misstep.
All right, sorry about that, guys. I just kind of dropped off the stream, but Aaron, I don't want to tap this and make it happen. But Aaron was talking about how it even has more characters in the Superman film than ever before. So it's like an ensemble film, which is what James Gunn does. He does ensemble films. So it's not surprising that he has more and more characters in the Superman film. And it's not really a Superman film. It's more of an ensemble film, right? In which Superman is a part of it. Kind of like the Flash movie. So if you ever realize the way how Walter Hamada was doing things is the way how James Gunn is doing it. It's sort of like a Walter Hamada 2.0. This is like the Hamadaverse 2.0. If you haven't realized that by now, people, I don't know what to tell you. So if you like the Hamadaverse, you're going to love James Gunn's verse because that's what James Gunn is going with. And he's been hitting us with L after L. Superman, first of all, his biggest L was firing Henry Cavill. And then he came back with a guy that kind of looks like Henry Cavill in Corner Sweat. And Corner Sweat, the first image that he shows of Superman really doesn't get anybody excited about his Superman movie that's coming up. And then he's got these creature feature things, creature commandos or whatever, and that ain't exciting nobody either. So he's been on a tear. I gotta say, he's really been just really deflating the DC audience. The DC audience is not really interested in anything. DC is pretty much dead with him right now. Now, B says, Zack made a movie that kept Indian moviegoers in the seats even after the credits rolled. Man of Steel. Is that B? I gotta say, Man of Steel really held up, and this is the end of Man of Steel right here. It really held up. I just don't see anything that really sparks excitement. Look at this. This sparks excitement almost immediately. This is Deathstroke, and not just any Deathstroke. This is Apocalyptic Deathstroke. God damn, look at that. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. Just look at it. We're not even going to talk about it. We're just going to look at it. Look at it. Repeat loop. Get you excited almost immediately. All right? Because Zack knew what his audience wanted. He knew what he wanted because he was a DC fan. And from that translates into what his audience would want. What gets him excited, and you know Zack's filled with passion, right? Come on. Let's get back to DC here. want to stay with DC for a minute before I go into Free Palestine and a lot of things that are transpiring. All right, this here is from KG Crossover 3R. And I want to show you guys just how much okay. I want to show you just how much Zach just pulled straight from the comments.
Northcom Lightning 1. Request permission to unleash
Straight from the comments. For those of you who don't know, some of you know which animation this comes from. Straight from the comics, man. Zack Snyder. Straight from the comics, y'all. Straight from the animated series and movies and stuff. Can't get better than this. Can't get it better than this. Zach's really faithful to this stuff. Okay, so my point being, I've heard people say, Zach's the Kevin Feige of DC. He gets it. He gets what gets the fans excited for DC. So why restore the Snyderverse? Well, recently, a question was asked. I'm gonna bring it up on Twitter. Hold on, I'm trying to find it. I'm thinking Lex Lopez should be one of the people. No, it's not him. Okay, I don't even know how this happened, but whatever. I don't know why I'm still in this post. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, I forgot. Venom also came out the same year. In 2021, it wasn't just TSS. We had Venom that made $232 million profit for Sony Pictures. Shanghai broke even. Spider-Man No Way Home made $1.4 billion in profit for Sony Pictures. James Bond, it made $88 million profit. Godzilla vs. Kong made $26 million profit for Legendary. Dune Part 1 broke even. F9 made $195.25 million profit for Universal Pictures. Conjuring, Devil Made Me Do It, made $109 million in profit. And it was rated R. Ghostbusters made $17 million profit for Sony. Paw Patrol made $86 million for Paramount Pictures. Halloween Kills made $83 million for Universal Pictures and Miramax. Addams Family 2 made $63 million for Universal Pictures and United Artists. Wrath of Man made $4 million profit for Miramax the same year. So, you know, when they say that TSS can't even make back its own budget, you know, because of the COVID, come on, man. Get for real. Get for real. That's an excuse. You know, that was something that I said before. But hold on a second. I'm going to get into Free Palestine in a minute, but I just wanted to get this out of the way. DeMaio, he actually spoke on this. I won't go into all of that, but the thing I'm looking for, I know it's somewhere around here somewhere. When I find it, I'm going to... So first we had IMAX, okay? I want to show you guys something. So IMAX said, now that likes are private, or social media manager can finally can finally like your bring back request without setting off a firestorm. So bring back meaning bring this movie back to IMAX. Okay, 753 likes. Hold on, I'll tell you how many posts, how many responses. 157 responses. I want to show you something. So this was done 13th of June. Today's the 16th, so 3 days ago this happened, right? At 2 p.m. Look at this. Besides me, so that look how much people talked about. They talked about bringing back Zack Snyder. They talked about the Snyder Cut in IMAX, and you look how much responses on this. And you can say, oh, they're just Snyder fans, but look how much of them. Look how much of them are asking for this request. Look how many. Snyder Cut, Snyder Cut, Snyder Cut. Snyder Cut, Snyder Cut, Snyder Cut, Snyder Cut, Snyder Cut, Snyder Cut, Snyder Cut. Alita Battle Angel, Snyder Cut, Snyder Cut, Snyder Cut, Snyder Cut, Snyder Cut, Snyder Cut, Interstellar, Snyder Cut, Snyder Cut, Snyder Cut. They asking IMAX for Snyder Cut. Look at this. This is crazy. Dude talks about Interstellar here. IMAX. This is some other movie here. Snyder Cut. 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 So IMAX asked this question 3 days ago and just Snyder Cut nonstop. Look how much of it. Look how much of it. Look how many people are asking for the Snyder Cut to come in IMAX. Okay, I got another one for you guys. Why should we restore the Snyderverse, right? That's the question, right? Okay. Okay, check this out. A guy named Doomblazer who he's a real DC fan, meaning he's not a real DC fan. This is an ironic, sarcastic statement. It means he's a guy who he's an anti to Zack Snyder. He's an anti to what, the Snyderverse and all that. Really was shocked with his own YouTube poll when a majority voted for Henry Cavill, 71% of his 64,600 voters. I'm sorry, 71% of his 91,000 voters, 64,610 of them said their favorite Superman was Henry Cavill. He admits two polls are more credible than the echo chamber of Twitter, Reddit, and the person laughs and said, "Dweebs, you don't speak for the silent majority." Look at this. Christopher Reeve is 17%, Tom Welling is 4%, Henry Cavill is 71%, and Tyler Hoechlin 8%. This is YouTube, and this is more credible than the polls on Reddit and or Twitter. Honestly, shocking. I guess Cavill is the most preferred Superman. Okay? But if you think that's not enough, I'm going to show you guys even more evidence that supports Restore the Snyderverse. First of all, let's go into this. A guy named Zoom, he covers this, and he says, here's Donner's Superman versus Snyder's Superman. Donner's Superman said, even though you've been raised as a human being, you are not one of them. This is what Jor-El told him. Even though you're being raised as a human being, you are not one of them. That's what Donner's Superman said. That's what Donner's Jor-El said. However, Snyder's Jor-El said this: you're as much a child of Earth now as you are of Krypton. Isn't that crazy? Donner's Superman was not allowed to be Superman while loving a human woman, meaning he had to keep his Superman side of himself a secret. Whereas Snyder's Superman became Superman because he always wanted to help people long before meeting Jor-El. And he did not hide his identity from Lois Lane. She knew who he was. And because she kept it a secret, he respected her. Donner's Superman only became Superman out of his obligation to his dead fathers. Whereas, as we said before, Snyder's Superman became Superman because he always wanted to help people long before meeting Jor-El. Snyder's Superman preserves the empowered immigrant metaphor Siegel and Schuster intended. While Donner's Superman abandoned humanity to get with his girlfriend with minimum hesitation. Donner's Superman murdered Zod and potentially Lex Luthor in the Donner cut with a smile on his face, whereas Snyder's Superman killed Zod to save the human race and hated doing it. Donner's Superman spent a decade cooped up in an isolated Arctic crystal palace in the place of solitude, right? Whereas Snyder's Superman spent a decade traveling the world, meeting people and helping them. Donner's Superman is known as a celebrity god. However, Snyder's Superman thought about exiling himself because humanity concluded he was doing more harm than good. Actually, Snyder's Superman never really thought of himself as a god, just thought of himself as a person who was doing the right thing. That's basically it. Donner's Superman doesn't even try to take Clark Kent to the hospital, even though we saw him outrun a train minutes earlier, whereas Snyder's Superman followed Clark Kent's instructions to let him die and avoid causing mass hysteria at the existence of aliens. Zack Snyder's Superman saved people 15 times in his first film, whereas Donner's Superman only saved people 10 times in his first film. In other words, Zack Snyder's Superman did a whole lot more, was much more relatable, actually was more caring than Donner's Superman. Just thought, some people think that's controversial. I don't think so. But I got something else for you guys. Skip that over this here. Hold on here. Let me get to it. I gotta hurry up. Got a lot of Palestine stuff. That in and of itself is a lot of information. I don't know if I have enough time. It might take an hour, 2 hours with that. Man, there's some crazy people out here, but I'm gonna talk about that some other time. This is really Restore the Snyderverse. I'm gonna talk about Free Palestine in a short bit. I still can't go into depth with Free Palestine. I just want to talk about Snyderverse first. If I get into this, because this is, trust me, guys, this is very lengthy. The Free Palestine bit, and I really ain't got time. I have to spend like a whole day on that for me to go into that and do it justice. Oh wow, I got a lot of Free Palestine shit out here. I really want to get to something else. Hold on, just hold on, people. I'm gonna get there. Oh, this is so lengthy. My God. All right, enough. God damn, what the hell? This is Sucker Punch. I'm not talking about the Snyderverse. You guys gotta let me at least get to the Snyderverse shit. Fuck. Well, there was something else I wanted to share with you guys concerning the Snyderverse, but I don't know. I thought I had it bookmarked, but apparently not. That is so stupid. Oh my God. Seriously. Jesus. I can't believe this shit. Woo, that was some fucking long shot shit, bro. Okay, I can't seem to find what I'm looking for, so it is what it is. My picture just disappeared. Just to tell you how long this shit was. God damn. There was another one, but I can't find it. A poll a guy took talking about, do you want to see Zack Snyder's Justice League in IMAX? And boy, the response was so resounding on Twitter. I thought I bookmarked it, but apparently I didn't. It is what it is. All right, let's talk about the Free Palestine aspect of the thing. But why restore the Snyderverse? Because, my friends, It's much better, way better than anything else that came after it. And the facts are there. Zack Snyder does anything that makes news. If tomorrow Zack Snyder's Justice League is put into cinemas, it's going to make mad money. It's just what it is. Because there's people dying to see this. And plus, if this movie makes cinemas, and I'm talking about globally, in IMAX particularly, let me say this. It's going to make history again. It's going to be the film that supposedly didn't exist. Then the film that was not supposed to see cinemas because it's said to be too long. And let me say, Lord of the Rings was quite successful in coming back out in the cinemas. So I'm not going to be shocked if Zack Snyder's Justice League is so successful. Now, this film is almost 7 years old, okay? Plus or minus a couple years. But the thing about it is, people want to see some films which are timeless. People want to see films that mean something to them. And I can't see any way or means why Zack Snyder Justice League won't make money in the cinemas. You know, I can't see it happening. Leroy Kong says the following things. Let me see if I can get it. Leroy, I can't. I'm trying, but I can't. It's just a lot of shit coming in front of me instead of what's supposed to be. But I'm supposed to. I was seeing you were saying quite a lot of stuff just now there, and I couldn't see what you were saying. I don't know if somebody else was saying something, but all of it just faded away from view all of a sudden, so I can't see it. But if you make another post, probably I'll be able to see it then. But as of now, I can't see shit, which is a pity because you said a bunch of stuff. You were talking about, I can't remember what you were saying. You were saying a lot of stuff, Leroy. And unfortunately, I can't see any of it right now because I just don't know how this stupid fucking thing works. I'm sorry about that. I know I'm cursing and everything, but I just can't seem to see how this thing works. And I know there's more than one of you here right now watching this. I want to say, therefore, that the reason why the Snyderverse needs to be restored is nothing's better than it. And there are several different arguments. The first one being that Zack Snyder has been world building for God knows how long. He's got like several different projects right now he's working on where he's world building. So you have the Rebel verse, you have the Army of the Dead verse, and probably the Norse God verse. So that's three separate things right there going on. Plus, he's been successful at doing the 300 verse. He's been successful at doing the Snyderverse. All of these verses have been successful. Now, people say, well, the Snyderverse is dead. That's not true, actually. That's a lie. The Snyderverse is very much alive in a lot of people's mouths, especially the people who supposedly hate Zack Snyder. They're the ones that bring it up all the time. So it's there. It's quite alive. The thing about it is, when we say restore the Snyderverse, we just mean continue it. That's all we mean. It's there. It's on record. It's there for anybody to look at and observe. And it's always going to be there. Now, why I say that DC is dead is because there's no excitement for it. Like, there's excitement for the Snyderverse, right? There's excitement for the movies that Zack Snyder has done, and there's excitement for movies that Zack Snyder is still yet to do. There's always excitement around Zack Snyder. No matter how much people try to spin it, the industry tries to spin it, it doesn't change people's opinions because people have already bought into Zack Snyder's Snyderverse. People already bought into Zack Snyder as a director being a good director and that his films are good. They don't really care what the critics say about him anymore. People don't rely on the critics when they can find intrinsic value for themselves. So it really doesn't matter what anyone says about Zack Snyder anymore. You know, people enjoy his movies regardless. Having said that, he has three different projects that's going to come out later on this year. On August 2nd, we're talking about Rebel Moon Part 1 and 2 director's cuts. We're also going to be getting also Twilight of the Gods in September. That's a handful right there, and I'm looking forward to that. That's a lot for us to enjoy as Snyder fans. But also, it also makes the argument, and I think this is where a lot of the detractors of Snyder fans, they tremble and they quake. Because they are only detractors because they are afraid that Zack Snyder is brought back to DC and takes over DC again. This is what their major fear is. This is why they push back so hard when it comes to James Gunn. But like I said before, James Gunn has an abysmal record with DC. Abysmal. Zack Snyder, okay, so you can say the critics, didn't like some of his movies or whatever. Don't care. Critics don't mean shit, because what matters with movies is that people take the time out of their time to go see them. Now, if people are taking the time out of their time to go see Zack Snyder's movies, and they're watching his movies, and we look at the viewers, the hours viewed, the amount of viewership, the amount of viewers, and we see that he's doing respectable numbers, then it really doesn't matter what the critics say. Okay? And the thing about it is, Warner Brothers has it ass backwards. They're worried about the critics and what the critics say about certain films. Joker, the critics bashed that movie. That movie won several Academy Awards. Okay? Another movie that was bashed by the critics and is doing quite well was the J-Lo movie. They bashed that movie to death, and it did exceptionally well on Netflix. Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon 1 and 2 did exceptionally well on Netflix, contrary to popular opinion. And the reason that those movies did well on Netflix is because Zack Snyder, even though that was studio compromise movies, they're relevant to our times. They're actually saying something, which is my segue into Free Palestine. So so there are multiple reasons why Restore the Snyderverse is important, and I think it should happen. I don't care how Warner Brothers wants to restore it, or whoever wants to restore it. Once it's restored, I don't care if Warner Brothers wants to continue DC with James Gunn, or if they want to continue DC with whoever. I don't care if Universal ends up getting the stuff. Once they restore the Snyderverse, it doesn't matter if it's Netflix that restores the Snyderverse or whoever. Even Disney, it doesn't matter. Once it's restored and it's the Snyderverse that we know and love. We don't want any changes. We don't want anybody trying to sanitize it. We don't want to. No, we want exactly what Zack Snyder had to do with the next 2 films in the sequence, as well as we want to see the Batfleck movie, as well as we want to see the Atom movie, as well as we want to see the Cyborg movie, as well as we want to see a proper, well done Amazonian movie. Okay? Those are some of the movies that we want to see. Of course, we want to see the Air Cut release, but I really right now am not pushing for that. But the point is, we want to see the wrongs undone. And then if there's anything extra we can get out of it, we're going to take it. Because we don't, if these things are successful, we will want more of it. So you have to have the Snyderverse. And the problem with Warner Brothers is they keep on trying to force the fans to accept something the fans are not inclined to like. They're trying to force on the audience movies that the audience do not like. Okay? The audience has shown you with your Hamadaverse, with your Jeff Johns and John Berg verse, even with your Dwayne The Rock Johnson verse, and now with James Gunn and Peter Safran verse, they don't like the content. They don't like it. That's why they don't go see it. And you're continuing the same foolishness. And we don't care that you acknowledge Zack Snyder in these stupid films. We don't. Because it's not good movie making. I don't care what the critics say. We don't like it. And the sooner these people get it in their thick skulls to restore the Snyderverse. We don't want George Miller doing anything because George Miller just had a movie that flopped. And you know why the movie flopped? Because nobody asked him to do a Furiosa movie. Nobody was asking him to do a Furiosa movie. The fans weren't excited for that. They asked for a Mad Max movie. Why is it that studios keep on fucking up what the fans asked them to do? It's so fucking straightforward. A Mad Max movie. You couldn't give him a Mad Max movie, could you? You had to give them something else they did not ask for. The fans asked for a Superman solo film with Henry Cavill. You couldn't even deliver that, Warner Brothers. You had to fuck that up too. They asked for restoring the Snyderverse and sequels for Zack Snyder's Justice League. You couldn't deliver that. You had to come out with the asshole Sarnoff the very next day and say we don't have any plans. I mean, who in their fucking right mind would go out there after a movie's just made a whole bunch of noise and not put it in the theaters and not milk that shit and ride that wave and say, okay, we're gonna have 3, 4, 5. Netflix gets it. Netflix gets it. Even though they fucked up when it comes to the studio version of Rebel Moon, they should have gone with the director's cuts and forget about the studio versions. Because if the director's cut does supremely better than those studio versions, they better cancel that fucking studio version plan and stick with the director cuts. And I hope the director cuts blow the studio version in terms of using everything else out the window. Because I believe that the author's true vision should be seen. And they'll live and die by that. Patty Jenkins lived and died by her true vision for Wonder Woman being seen. That's her hill, and she crucified herself on her own hill. Okay? Right? That's her true vision. So, you take risks and you gotta live with the risk you're taking, But Zack Snyder, on the other hand, has produced. He's not been producing flops in terms of financial. The critics don't like his stuff, but the critics haven't liked a lot of stuff. Okay, it's not like this is not new. Critics haven't liked a lot of stuff. There's snooty people who they're not really in tune with what the population wants. And a good film is simply a film that the majority of people like. It doesn't have to follow the boundaries of what filmmaking is. It just has to be something that the majority of people like, and it made money. That's what makes a film good, because it's subjective. It's not based on no fucking critic out there. And y'all take too much direction from people who are, a lot of these films are not about Academy Awards anyway. So what the fuck? Who cares what the critics think? Not all films are just about being these, whatever these pompous pricks think they should be. So ultimately, in the end, Warner Brothers is shooting itself in the head and committing mass suicide on itself by going the direction it's going in terms of a Marvelized universe. And again, a lot of people say, oh, it's not a Marvelized universe. What are you talking about? This is nothing like Marvel. Okay. Whatever you say, don't expect me to go see it, though. Right? And that's what a lot of people are doing. They're like, you like that? It's like that with you? Okay, cool. Continue what you're doing. And we just continue doing what we do. We're not going to go watch your fucking shit. That's how they feel about it. And there's nothing I could say about that. And you could say they're boycotting. You could say whatever the hell you want to say about it. At the end of the day, a fan has the right to do whatever the fuck they want. It's their fucking money. So if they feel that they're not going to go see this movie for whatever reason, that's on them. And guess what? You're going to have to deal with it. Now, with respect to James Gunn's Superman movie, I don't really like talking about it because it really isn't the thing. I'm not interested in that movie. People are saying, James Gunn has a chance to bring about a Superman movie, and Leroy Kong straight up said, I'm not supporting anything that James Gunn see. And Leroy Kong's not a Snyder fan like that. And he's not a DC, he's a real DC fan. He's one of those real DC fans. He really is a DC fan. Now, the question I have to ask everybody is, a lot of y'all talking about, James Gunn is going to do well, 500 mil, whatever. Y'all just running your mouth, right? I got this question for you guys. How many of you who are praising James Gunn's Superman and defending it and whatever, how many of you are actually going to go out there and watch that movie? Don't lie to me, because a lot of y'all talking, but a lot of y'all are not going to go see it. Because it has nothing that compels you to want to go see it. Some of you are going to go see it. But most of you are not going to, even the people who are defending James Gunn right now, a lot of y'all are not going to go see it. Because it's shit. And his movie's going to be shit. You know this. You know it. So why are you the direction that Warner Brothers is going with DC is not a popular direction at all. DC fans slapped in the face when Henry Cavill was fired. A lot of DC, and you saw how many fans or how many people want Henry Cavill as Superman and think that their favorite Superman is Henry Cavill. What I'm trying to say to you guys is those days when they were talking about Christopher Reeve, those days when, you know, it was all about, you know, pathos and humor, those days are gone, ladies and gentlemen. Even for Marvel, even for Disney, those days are gone. The audience is not buying it anymore. And truth be told, if we're going to be real, most people who would have gone to cinema to see certain movies, because things are so much more rougher now than before, they're not going to go to the cinema just to see a movie just because it's a movie. They're not going to spend their hard-earned money to do that. But if there's something that really draws them to the cinema, they'll go. So all of these, you know, people talking about comic book movies are dying and blah, blah. Listen, the truth be told, comic book movies are fine if you write good stories and you put out something that's worth seeing, that people are interested in seeing. I'm not saying that the director has to make the movie for the fans, because you know, Zack Snyder said it, and a lot of directors have said that they make movies for themselves. But what I'm saying is, if it doesn't vibe with the fans, if the fans, or not even the fans, the audience, if it doesn't vibe with the audience, you're wasting your time. I really don't care what the critics say. They can say it's a great movie. They can say it's a well-made movie. They can say whatever the fuck they want. If the fans are not going to see it, it's trash. It's trash. If the audience is not going to see it, nobody wants to go see it, it's trash. So, okay, let's go here. Let's talk about this. This is a saying by the 6th Prime Minister of Israel, Menachem Begin, and he said this. He said, our race is the master race. He's talking about the Jews. We are divine gods on this planet. In fact, compared to our race, other races are beasts and animals and cattle at best. And if you do listen to the rhetoric, when all of them, from, you know, the Prime Minister go down, Ben-Gvir and all those guys, when they were talking about Palestinians, they called them animals. And this is the talk of Nazis. Okay? And this is the Zionist. This is one of the prime ministers of Israel back in 1982. He said this thing. Now, I'm going to make it abundantly clear to you guys. I'm going to break down. I'm going to tell you why Free Palestine is very important and why we are very close to that happening today. Now, first, let me just give you a couple little news stuff here. So in the G Summit that happened, or supposedly Peace Summit in Switzerland, which obviously avoided having the presence of Russia there, they came and they threw down an ultimatum on Russia that, you know, if Russia doesn't agree to the terms of the Peace Summit, we will force them to surrender. Now, first of all, you ain't saw it forcing Russia to do shit. Okay, Russia is like several times the size of Europe, several times the size of the United States of America and Canada and parts of South America, okay? Russia's a huge place. Huge. Okay? So you ain't gonna do shit to Russia, okay? Right now, Russia's fighting Ukraine. World War II was won because of Russia, okay? So if you think you can bully Russia, go ahead, have fun. Now, Russia is led by Vladimir Putin. But the one thing about Vladimir Putin, I gotta say, even though I disagree with him violating the sovereignty of Ukraine and going in there and rescuing the Russians that were in Ukraine, I want to say this. I will say this. If you do not deal with Russia in a diplomatic manner, Russia has the firepower. Russia has the expertise and know-how. If Russia wanted to take over the world by war tomorrow, it could do it. Okay, because it's got the land space, it's got the weapons, it's got everything. It just so happens that the Russians are not trying to take over the world. Vladimir Putin is just being a czar of Russia. Okay, so they have a democracy in word. It's not a democracy, really. But Vladimir Putin is not interested in dominating the world as I thought he was. He is interested because he's got Russia. Russia's a substantial portion of the world to start with. And not to mention, it's a huge place to just even try to control. So Vladimir Putin does not trust the West, does not trust the United States of America. And he personally is running Russia how he sees fit. Okay. Now, I don't agree with everything he's doing. And like I said before, you violate a nation's sovereignty, they have a right to defend themselves. So Ukraine fighting Russia. But the thing about it is, this is a war that Ukraine just cannot win. I don't care how many weapons the United States use. I don't care, how much weapons, these other European countries pump into Ukraine. They're not going to win this war against Russia. They just can't. Russia as a military might is a force to reckon with, period. Without nuclear weapons or with nuclear weapons. They have the most nuclear weapons. They have the biggest nuclear weapons. Russia is not a country to play around with, okay? The Russians have always won every single war they participated in, including the Afghan war, even though the Afghan came back. The Afghan soldiers came back, okay? You're not going to win a war with Russia. So what the fuck is wrong with these people? You're not going to beat them. You're just not going to beat the Russians, okay? So here's the thing. Peace is what's important. And you can't have a peace summit about Russia and Ukraine if you don't have Russia there. So they're full of shit, okay? Now, when it comes to Russia, Russia put out an ultimatum to the Ukraine. It was like, all right, move your forces out of a certain part of Ukraine. We'll take that area. And there will be peace. We can call it truce. They know the Ukrainians is not going to do that. But this is what their offer is. Okay? Russia is willing to utterly destroy Ukraine, run straight through it, and make it a part of Russia again. Okay? Ukraine and Russia were in peace talks last year, just like how Hamas and the Mossad and the CIA and the heads of Israel were in negotiations to have peaceful exchange of hostages last year. Around about the same time both these incidents were happening. And on both ends, parties were persuaded to go to war. The people suffering in this war are never are the military, because the military industrial complex loves war so they can sell more of their weapons. Okay, this is why America is supplying funding and weaponry to Israel nonstop, because the military complex is enjoying this. Okay, they make a lot of money off of this. Okay, now, with respect to Ukraine and Russia, Ukraine can't win this war. They can't. Russia's too big, it's too powerful, and no matter, the United States is too far away to start with. The European countries fit into Russia like if they're just little, they're not even states in Russia. There are states in Russia that envelop these countries, okay? They're no match for Russia. None of them. And I hope they understand this. This is not a war they will win. And one way or the other, they're going to have to negotiate. So the sooner they negotiate with Russia, I don't even care about NATO. I don't care that NATO, I don't care what weaponry they have. They're no match for Russia. Russia didn't want any NATO country annexing them. They don't want anybody up close to them because they know that's the start of war. And they don't want, Russia doesn't want a war. Russia actually wants to just end this right now, pull their troops out of certain parts of Ukraine. But if Ukraine wants a battle, they'll just blow Ukraine over. They'll blow them over. The situation is one in which the Ukrainian government needs to look for a truce. They need to look for peace. War is not the answer. You're too small to take down Russia. You can't take down Russia. You could try, but you're not going to take it down. It's too big, way too big, and too powerful for you. You're like a gnat. Russia's not even starting to even use even anything of their potential force and power that they are on the Ukraine. Okay, they're holding back, sort of like. Okay, one nuclear bomb, and that's the end of Ukraine. Ukraine's off the map. Okay, by Russia. Okay, so if we're really being real here, Russia wants to surrender by Ukraine. Ukraine can respect the surrender, salvage what they can, end this war. They won't do that. And so what will happen is Russia will eventually take over Ukraine. They'll let the people live inside of Ukraine, but they will institute their leaders there. So unlike Israel, which is looking to wipe out everybody and have ethnic cleansing and ethnic genocide, Russia's not trying to do that. Okay, Russia's not on ethnic cleansing and genocide. They'll let the people live in there, but the leadership will be Russian. This is what will happen. So that's the direction we're heading in when it comes to Russia and Ukraine and Ukrainian sovereignty. When it comes to Israel and Gaza, it's actually a different story. There's a reason why a ceasefire is actually in Israel's best interest right now. There are several different reasons. You got assholes like Ben-Gvir, who is dirty to the core, who's thinking the only way to solve the problem with Israel is to occupy the land, as he's saying right there, and wipe out all the Palestinians, get them all out. They're animals, blah, blah, blah. This motherfucker, for some reason, is a minister in Israel. I don't know how it happened. He's part of the right-wing regime of Israel. How he's even come to power. This guy's even responsible in some part for the death of Yitzhak Rabin. This dude is literally a murderer. How the fuck he's actually a minister of government? We have no fucking idea how this has happened. He's a madman. He's like a Nazi. All right? Now, he's not the only person. There's a lot of extreme right people in the government of Israel. And as you see in the elections, some of the extreme right are actually coming into power. And you're seeing the rise of the extreme right not only in Europe, you're seeing the rise of the extreme right also in America. As you can see, Donald Trump is trying to become president of the United States. So there's a lot of extreme right-wing assholes out here who are trying to run things in the world. And these people are up to no good. They're just about world domination. And really, they're just like the normal little evil character in a movie. They really are. Like, you could just pull them straight out of a movie and put them into real life. This is what these motherfuckers look like. Okay? Ben-Gvir, first of all, look at this ugly looking motherfucker. Okay? Who wears glasses? He's supposed to be Jewish, but I'm sure he's just an atheist. He doesn't believe in anything that has to do with God or anything like that. And this motherfucker has, he wears the police flag with pride. If you notice, the colors of the flag of Israel are the colors of the police. It's a police state right now. Some of my good friends in Israel, they're now speaking out a little bit more openly. Some of them are from Tel Aviv, but most of them are not speaking about the atrocities because they're fear of being victimized. So they have to be very careful how they use social media, etc. But just like the Snyderverse and Snyder fans, they are the majority of the Israelis. The majority of the Israelis think that there's an atrocity being committed by the leadership of Israel and the settlers of Israel, the right wing, the extreme right wing. Now, a lot of the people in Israel didn't really know their history properly anyway. And they now beginning to know that. And the people in Israel who know this shit already, they said we had it coming. Okay, so they would tell you that. Some of them have migrated out of Israel. There's a lot of people leaving Israel right now and going back to other places in the world where they used to come from. And the reason that's happening is because a lot of them see how this is going to unfold and they already understand what the chess match is. And it's game over for Israel. Israel, as you know it, will never be what it once was. For 75 years, the people of Israel were able to bamboozle and tricked the whole world into believing that Israel was the victim. That it was these mean Arabs, it was the mean Arab world that wanted to see them exterminated. When all along, these motherfuckers were torturing and killing, shooting and maiming, knocking down people's houses and just bullying the Palestinians out of their land, pushing them out of their land, destroying their vineyards, etc., etc., etc. These motherfuckers got away with it for 75 years, ladies and gentlemen, but no more. Now, in addition to that, and y'all gonna have to excuse my language because I'm being very blatantly honest, Israel is known as a pariah state. And when Hamas and other anti-Israel and anti-Zionists speak up against Israel, whether they be Jewish or whoever, and they say that Israel does not have a right to exist, I think a lot of people now get it. And Israel, as it is, in fact, to be honest with you, it shouldn't even be called Israel. It should be called Death Nation, okay? The nation that kills its own people, that kills the endemic people of the land, that doesn't allow the endemic people to return to their fucking land, the nation that wants to build a nation over the bones of the deceased people of the land. Let me tell you how much Israel doesn't care about its own people. The priority in Gaza is to take down Hamas, and it's also to get the hostages back. And since human life takes precedence over human death, it's more important to get the hostages back than Hamas. And these stupid officials, these government officials who love death and bloodbaths, they said, nah, they're all equal. The hostages are not a priority like the other things. And so the people, the families of these hostages have been having protests in Tel Aviv. They tried to have protests in Jerusalem. They arrested people in Jerusalem. They've tried to have protests in Hebron, but Hebron's mostly settlers. So how dare a Jew get up and die? The settlers probably stone them or kill them or ostracize them. You know, in different parts of Israel, there have been protests. In fact, there are protests to remove Netanyahu from office. They don't want him there. They don't want his coalition. But the truth be told, it'll take a lot more from the Israeli people to get that change that they're looking for. It'll take a lot more. And my camera is behaving like an asshole right now, but excuse it. Okay, I don't know why my camera's doing that shit. Okay, my camera's sideways. Okay, it's now straightened out. The truth be told, ladies and gentlemen, is that Hamas was right all along. Hamas is saying, not only do we need to end the occupation, we need to end Israel as it is known. We have to stop these people from trying to take Lebanon and Syria and Damascus in Syria and Jordan and parts of Egypt and parts of Saudi Arabia, because they're not going to stop. And they've been able to get rid of Iraq, and they've been able to get rid of Syria, cause disturbances in Syria with the CIA, with America backing them. And they killed the Iranian president. And they're all about war and more war, at least the governing body. I don't know for the people per se. Some of the people want war, and some of the people do not want war. Some of the people are just normal people like you and I who just want to live in a place and have peace. Like almost people and populations of almost every other nation in the world. All we want to do is carry on our everyday lives peacefully and just do what we do peacefully. So a lot of people have evacuated Israel because they know Israel's days are numbered. And America is trying to, lie and make Israel seem like they want a ceasefire. Truth be told, Hamas is kicking their ass. They may be killing a lot of civilians in Gaza and a lot of civilians in the West Bank and so on. But when it comes to fighting, they can't fight for fuck. I can tell you that for a fact. They got all this equipment and all that stuff, but they're getting their ass kicks. And this is now becoming a very bloody war for their soldiers. And in the north, Hezbollah is wreaking havoc. Hezbollah, you see, they were fighting Hezbollah before they even started fighting Hamas. Okay. And then they had to divert some of their forces towards Hamas, which they're fighting right now. And because they're so divided in having to fight these people, even though they have British special forces and American special forces aiding them in there, contrary to what the leaders of England and also America are saying, they have special forces in there trying to help them, they're still getting their asses kicked. And the major reason is because both Hamas and Hezbollah are not official military organizations. They call them terrorist groups, but they're really guerrilla fighting, freedom fighting groups. They're really the average citizens, you and me out there, being trained in the art of guerrilla warfare to defend our land. You will notice that Hezbollah has not tried to just go all the way down into central Israel and kill everybody. They've basically been taking back the land which Israel had imposed on them and tried to take from them. They're just taking it back. Israel had come in and bombed Lebanon, and southern Lebanon was taken over by Israel. And now Hezbollah, they had tried to have a peaceful agreement with them. Now Hezbollah just frank them and just take back the land. So they're just coming back and take back what they had. With respect to Hamas, Hamas knows that Gaza is the restricted place, but actually right outside of Gaza was also Palestinian land and settlements. They also know that the West Bank is being taken away. They know that East Jerusalem is being taken away. So Hamas knows what Israel has been doing over the last couple of years. And they really are hell-bent on getting back their land, And if they got to do this grueling war in which a lot of people die and all this shit, they don't mind. They're going to grind the shit out of Israel. And this war is going to go so long that Israel's going to give up, just like the Vietnam War, and they're going to win back their land. Israel's going to retreat eventually, and they're going to win back their land. So Hamas is in this for the long haul. Hezbollah's in this for the long haul. It's their land. It's their place. You took their place. You took their land, Israel, and you've been taking their land. You have like 80-something% of their land now, and they're going to take it back. And they don't care. They're going to take it back. But they're not going to fight the traditional warfare that you're used to. Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. They're going to ambush you, and they're going to outsmart you, and they're going to take back their land. That's what they want to do. So, you see, this is why America's looking at it and saying, oh, yeah, we need a ceasefire. You know why? Because you can't supply enough weapons to Israel in enough time to be able to have them bomb this crap, because that's all you guys are good at doing is bombing things. America bombed out Afghanistan, bombed out Iraq, right? Killed a whole bunch of people. That's what you're good at doing, bombing shit, right? Okay. But when you get on the ground, you get your asses kicked. Why? Because you're not really good at fighting at ground warfare, okay? Because the people know the ground better than you do, okay? So at the end of the day, America is this big bully, so they try to do. And I do hope that the International Criminal Court also, or the International Court of Justice, incriminates the United States of America, particularly the government of the United States of America, in being complicit with genocide or complicit with the war crimes that Israel is making because they supplied the weapons to them. Not the American people, because the American people don't agree with this. The American people have been asking for a ceasefire for the longest while. America's digging a hole. Not America, sorry, my bad. The administration's digging a hole because the people do not agree with the administration. Over almost 80% of the American public now have been asking for a ceasefire. Now America's talking about a ceasefire. You're talking about a ceasefire because Israel's getting their ass kicked by Hamas. Okay. And you know what? Everybody's talking about, you shouldn't be pro-Hamas and you shouldn't be pro-Hamas. Well, you know what? If I had to pick between the IDF and Hamas, I'd pick Hamas. You know why? They're the underdogs. They don't really have the superior weapons that Israel has. They don't have nothing. They're making do with what they have. They get a couple little dollars, from wherever, Qatar, through Iran or whatever. But they don't really have sophisticated weapons that Israel has. They just have the know-how, the strategy, and the planning. They get the will to fight. And that's something hard because they have a reason to fight. They have a reason to fight. And they say, oh, Hamas is looking to annihilate all Jews. No, I don't see Hamas going around in America, Sweden, United States killing Jews. Okay, I'm sure there are members of Hamas that are outside of Palestine. We know some of them live in Qatar or whatever. I don't see them trying to kill Jews in any other place of the world. No, they're talking about they're against the occupation. They're against the Zionistic nature to try and steal their land, to kill their people, to rape their people, to murder their people, to torture their people. They're done with that shit. They're not going to live that life. They're going to try and liberate their people, and whatever it takes, they're going to go with it. And it means the falling of the Israeli regime that puts in place that somehow Israel is superior to Palestine or superior to the Palestinians. And the Israelis are superior to the Palestinians. And the Palestinians should be treated like animals and children. And there's this master race of people. Fuck out of here, man. So at the end of the day, I don't have a problem saying this on social media or elsewhere, because we can see it as plain as day. And we can see that Europe and United States have been backing Israel in terms of arms, in terms of all kinds of things, because that's how Europe was founded. And that's how America was founded, off the backs of the native peoples. And then they tried to throw the native peoples crumb bread. Well, that's about to end. We're against colonialism, settler colonialism. We're against it. And I'm glad that this has now been shown how ugly that thing is, and how much you try to erase the history of people. You try to erase their culture. You try to erase off the face. And then you want to talk about morality and the right thing to do when you're in charge. Fuck out of here. Fuck out of here. And the native peoples need more reparations than they're getting. And the slaves too. And fuck it. Any country that is under colonial rule, with England, Spain, or France, need reparations because you stole their stuff. You took their resources. Oh, to the victor comes the spoils. No, motherfucker. No, not anymore. Fear is fear. You respect all life everywhere. Otherwise, guess what? Russia's free to pillage Ukraine from the pillar to the post. That's the way it's going to be. Because you can't preach one thing on one end, oh, Russia's bad and wrong for doing this. And on the other end, you're doing the very same thing. You're a fucking hypocrite. So we don't want to hear it. And there's no such thing as world power, and America's the world power, so it can do whatever it wants. Fuck America then. And fuck all of them. Okay? That's what I think. Because at the end of the day, you got to keep it consistent. And that's why we have international law, and that's why we have international politics. And America can try and be the big bully and say, I'm going to sanction the UN, I'm going to sanction this. Fuck you. You are going to unilaterally sanction somebody? How the fuck can you do that? Unilaterally? When you got the whole fucking world with 200, 300 different nations? If they decide to sanction your ass, what you going to do? 200 and something of them to you. Oh, we got the most weapons. All right, well, let's go then. Let's go. World War III. Everybody against America. See who survives. Let's see who comes out of it a winner. You're not going to win. So stop it. Learn to have teamwork. Learn to work with people. And Europe, they call themselves first world nations, but they're thieves. Europe built its wealth off the back of Africa, off the back of India, off the back of China. And now China's coming to take it back. Africa's coming to take it back. The Middle East is coming to take it back. That's why predominantly you see migration into the European countries, because there's resources, there's wealth, there's stuff there. And guess what? You stole it from the people. So why, when they're coming, making their exodus back into Europe, you have a problem with that? Why would you have a problem with that? What you sow is what you reap. So anyways, that's what I got to say about that. Am I against Jewish people? Hell no. Do I see the rise of anti-Semitism? It really is happening now. The right-wing people are really trying to go at the Jews. They're trying to go at any minority. They're trying to take their stabs now. So yes, there is a rise now in anti-Semitism, in the real sense of the word. It is actually happening. Because these assholes, these Europeans who came into the Middle East have given anti-Semitic people, real haters, a reason to say, look at them. So this is what happens if the Jews take over. This is what they're gonna say, which is not true at all. Now, I know, because I got Jewish blood in me. It's not true. I'm against it. And a lot of Jews are against this shit. That's why they're saying ceasefire, and that's why they're trying to shut it down. Not only ceasefire, get the fuck out of the people's country, man. All right? occupied areas. No, there's no occupied areas. Let the people have their military, let them have their airports, let them have normal civilian life. Oh, Hamas mustn't run things. Hamas will run things until the next election. That's how it goes. Okay? Because guess what? You call Hamas terrorists, they have a military wing and they have a political wing. Okay? They have some structure there. You won't even let the people have their own military. You won't even let the people have their own weapons. Every nation deserves to have a military. Every nation deserves to have their own police. Every nation is supposed to have their own governing body. What are you going to do? If the Hamas is not there, there's nobody. Then there's the PLA. So at the end of the day, we don't want to hear that shit anymore. The world doesn't want to hear it. Nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to hear sad stories about the Jewish nation and how we'll be ostracized. Nobody wants to hear that shit. What people want to see is Israel withdraw all its forces from the occupied territories. Israel acknowledge Palestine as a nation and a state. And also, we want to see Israel let Palestine be a continuous nation within itself. And let people go back to wherever they came from. Whether it's go back into Palestine proper and have life there. But people should be free to go back where they need to go. If you don't want to mix the Palestinians with you in one nation and they outvote you on something so that they go ahead and run things, then let them have their own nation. Okay? But at the end of the day, this ain't going to fly. And the world is not going to stand by and say nothing about this. Okay? And there are atrocities being committed as we speak, which every single atrocity, I promise you, somebody's going to pay for it in Israel. Okay? Somebody's going to pay for it. See that asshole that talking right there on the screen? He going to pay for it. We're going to make sure he pay for it. The whole world's going to make sure he pay for it. And I'm not going to keep quiet. You can't shut me up. I know YouTube Arrow, all these other people like Elon Musk and all these assholes, they want to shut us up, but we're not going to shut up for shit. And it's all of us. Oh, by the way, America's trying to get a draft going. Well, good luck with that, America, because guess what? Most of the people are going to say, fuck you. And you could put me in prison. You're going to have to put in millions, hundreds of millions of people in the prison. And we ain't going to go. We're going to resist. You might have a civil war on your hands because guess what? We ain't going to take no fucking draft. And that's how Americans have to move. I know in America, people are being hijacked from their homes and all kinds of crazy things are happening. It's been happening since 2009, this shit been going on. But I'm just saying, and they've been targeting people in America for a while. And I know about it. But I'm going to tell you this. Stand your fucking ground. You're Americans. And by the way, arm yourselves. Arm yourselves. That's the one thing about the right-wing people I got. Arm yourselves. You have your own militia. Remember, America was founded on civilians who armed themselves against the British. And don't you ever forget that, Americans. They let you have your guns. They let the NRA run ruction. So arm yourselves up. And if these motherfuckers want a war, give them a war as a people. Give them a war. And most of the soldiers will side with you anyway, because the soldiers are patriotic. And anytime somebody's trying to do a coup against the American people, whether it's the Israeli lobby, who's trying to do a coup against the American people right now. Donald Trump, I'm going to say this, Donald Trump and Joe Biden are not the only two candidates. You guys can elect Jill Stein. Y'all can elect Cornel West. I personally think you should elect Jill Stein as the next president of the United States with the Green Party. Get all the Green Party representatives. They're trying to block Jill Stein right now in Arizona. But once they can get representation in every single state, you elect them. And whether or not they got representation or not, elect them. Just keep on electing them. Elect them as hard as you can. And upset the apple cart. Take away the power that these Zionists have over America and the politicians for 75 years now. That's what I got for you guys right now. Actually, it was in 82, but nonetheless. So, the honest truth is, you guys got to fight against the forces of evil. And I see the next generation doing that, but that's not enough. We have to fight even harder, people. We got to fight for the right and the righteousness and the justice in this world. I'm sorry for cursing and swearing on this, but truth be told, we got some nasty, nasty people in the world, man. Sickos. I mean, sickos, depraved people who eat children. It really does exist. Eat women. Really does exist. Okay? They're sickos. And a lot of the heads of state and the heads of countries do some really awful things, people, that you guys are not aware of. If you knew, you'd vomit. So at the end of the day, keep those buckheads in order. Check them. In every single nation and country, keep on doing your protests. Keep on standing your ground. Do not change, get stronger. The world is against what Israel is doing. The world. And no fucking figurehead of some country. And you know, they're trying to do elections and get rid of certain people because, you know, the Israeli lobbies in different countries, and they're trying to try and campaign out people. Like right now, they're trying to get rid of Jamal Bowman from the squad. They're trying, but we got a lot of people also support Jamal Bowman. All you got to do, people of the States, is you just got to trust the people who you went with. And fuck all that money. Fuck those stupid ass, you know, Israeli bullshitters. Okay? We're not buying that bullshit no more. And yes, the rise of the right-wing power, it looks like the right wing is going to rise up. But fuck the right wing. That's how I say. Y'all got to push back, and y'all got to push back hard. They mustn't be able to anticipate your next move in terms of, they don't expect somebody else other than Donald Trump and Joe Biden to be elected as president of the United States. What better time to have a woman president of the United States and buck the whole fucking system? Destroy it. Destroy it. Make them have to press the reset button. What better time? And she fights for human rights. She's all pro-Palestine. She's about free Palestine. She's the right guy, for the right woman for the job. You know, and have Cornel West and all the squad up there with her. That would be great. And Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is a good guy, man. You know, Bernie thinks that Hamas is a terrorist and did terrorist act. I don't know about that. But I would say this. Bernie's on our side. Bernie's against what Israel's doing. And we need as many allies as we can in high places. And we can get Bernie on board. That would be great. Because, listen, if you guys can have a government with Bernie's there, you got Jill Stein, Cornel West, you got the squad up in there, you got all the Republicans and the Democrats and Republicans who are not taking AIPAC money. We can bring back America, man. I saw a Republican governor won back his seat. You know, no AIPAC money. Shout out to him. Big shout out to that brother. Because I'm for Republicans, I'm for Democrats who will not take Israeli bribe money, you know, so that they become mouthpieces for Israel. I'm all for the senators. I'm all for the congressmen who will stand up to that. All them other guys, them jokers, Trump, Robert Kennedy, Joe Biden, they've all taken the money. They're compromised. Okay. But people like Jill Stein, Cornel West, the Republican senator I just told you about, or governor, I think he's governor, and some other people, they didn't take the money. So you guys go behind those guys. Go behind people in the Green Party who didn't take the money. Support the people who are, you need to go up against AIPAC immediately, and you have to strike them, and you got to strike them hard. Elections happen in November. You guys can deal a death blow to the Israeli lobby and to Israeli money. Everything's exposed in the open now. Everybody knows what's going on. It's time for you guys to act and shut it all down. This is deep like this. These people have infiltrated entertainment. You see now actors, you know, you're seeing, you know, big time actors supporting Israel because they took that money. We've seen it infiltrated in Hollywood. We've seen the infiltration in the police service in the United States of America and police services around the world. We've seen it in information systems where they have been supplying information systems to different countries of the world, to dictatorships, etc. So it's very important to break this corruption and this cycle of corruption. This almost reminds me of Babylon from the Bible. You know, and Babylon is fallen, is fallen. It's these synagogue of Satan, wicked people, man. It's these evil people, man. And it's very important that when you see gutter people like that, you don't support them. You know. This was the amount of people who were actually protesting, tens of thousands on the street demanding Netanyahu's immediate ouster, ceasefire and hostage deal. This is in Tel Aviv. These are actually Jewish people protesting Netanyahu's game plan, what he was planning to do. They've been pressing for a ceasefire. They've been pressing for a hostage deal. Tens of thousands of people in Tel Aviv. So don't get it twisted. There's a lot of Israelis who are on our side, who support what we're doing. There's a lot of Israelis who had connections with people, as I said before, in Palestine. There was an Israeli woman who's married to a guy in Palestine. I don't even know if that guy's still alive. And she was praying to God that her husband's still alive. Okay? So there's a lot of shit that people don't talk about. And this thing's a lot more complicated than people think. There are people who have families in Palestine, okay, they may be Arab Israelis, or they may also be Israeli Israelis who are married to Arabs. And this is what a lot of people just don't understand, is this shit is very complicated. And this is not just hurting Palestine. This is hurting Israel. This is destroying Israel. And that's why it's very important to try and go back to a peaceful way of doing things. The settlers need to be kicked out of the places they're in. The places need to, otherwise, trust me, Hezbollah and Hamas will do it for them. So one way or the other, Palestine will be taken back. So you're either having these lengthy wars in Lebanon, Syria, and the northern part of Israel being bombed, the central part of Israel being destroyed. It's up to you, Israel, because you're not making the situation more secure. You're only adding flames to the fire. Right now, northern Israel is up in flames. Hezbollah has been bombing the shit out of Israel. They've broken through the Iron Dome, and they're bombing the shit out of the settlements in the north. And a lot of Israelis have been displaced from there. So, Israel went and bombed Hezbollah, bombed Lebanon, and Hezbollah responded. And I'm going to tell you this right now. Hezbollah's been arming up like a motherfucker, okay? Getting arms from Turkey, And I'm going to say this once and for all. If Israel doesn't find a way to find peace with the Palestinian people, Hezbollah will continue to destroy Israel. And their end game is not right now. They intend to take it down, and they're going to take it down completely. There will be no Israel. There will be no Israelis in Israel. Okay, Hezbollah will take them out. And Hezbollah has been holding back on doing that because they have the capability of doing that. Okay, they've been holding back. But if Israel keeps on doing what they're doing in Gaza, Hezbollah will take them out. We'll take them out. We won't have to go to Iraq. We won't have to deal with Turkey. Hezbollah will take them out. Okay? The Houthis, which are in the south. The Houthis are not going to fuck around either. The Houthis they're ironclad. They've been war-ridden. These motherfuckers been through war. Okay? The citizens been through war. The Houthis, they're not playing either. And let me just say this. And don't take this lightly. Hamas, the Houthis, and Hezbollah, these dudes got nothing to lose. Okay? Israel's dealing with a hornet's nest that they cannot stop. Okay? These people are desperate to get back their freedom. And they will do whatever it takes to get their freedom. So they may not have superior weapons to Israel, but they're going to do whatever it takes to take down Israel, and they're going to take them down. So it's really in Israel's best interest. It's really in their best interest to not have warmongers and people who want weapons, everything is weapons to solve problems. But, a pig's going to be a pig, and a rabbit's going to be a rabbit. So we'll see how it all pans out in the end. But things are not going to go back to normal. The world's seeing things differently. And the world needs to force the issue where it comes to not just a ceasefire, but ending the occupation in all the states where they're occupied, reclaiming land. If they don't do it, as I said before, Hamas and Hezbollah will do it for them. Okay? Because Hamas and Hezbollah have been holding it down for their respective countries and their respective people. Because their countries and people didn't have a military to do it for them. So, one way or the other, and Hezbollah and Hamas have not gotten the support from the surrounding countries of Egypt and Jordan. Okay? They haven't gotten that support. So, they've been making sure they could find ways and means to do it themselves. And they're not playing around. They'll do it themselves. So it's really in Israel's best interest to try to end this war or this so-called altercation that they have with Hamas, because it's something that is going to wear them the fuck down. They're not going to win this one. Hamas is taking out tanks. They're taking out tanks. Okay? They're taking out drones. So, they're not going to wipe out Hamas. They're not going to weaken Hamas. Hamas in the north is kicking Israel's ass right now in the north of Gaza. Kicking their ass. Killing a whole bunch of them. And they'll continue to do that. Regardless, American Special Forces, whoever, they know the terrain better than all the other people who are coming in. So, if I were Israel, of course, a ceasefire would be a good idea, but I would need to withdraw all my troops, all my personnel out of all the occupied territories and relinquish the Al-Aqsa Mosque as well. That's what I'd do. And try to set up a peace treaty whereby Palestine gets its place, Israel gets its place. Anybody violates that, well, we're going to have a little war. And it settles back down. Ian Pape, he said a lot of things, and I'm just going to leave it alone for now. But I just want to say that Ilan Pape, who also was an Israeli, not allowed to, he's been exiled from Israel, but he has very clearly showed how Israel is founded on Zionism, and Zionism has always been about the displacement of people and the killing of people. And right now Israel is showing that that's what they want to do: displace and destroy and kill people. And it's plain as day to everybody. And they try to talk about, God promised them, Israel. God didn't promise you shit. Okay, God didn't promise you shit. You once were the chosen people. Nobody's saying no. But God said many are chosen, but many are called, but few are chosen. So they were called of God, but then rejected of God, and it was placed on another, because they still reject Jesus the Christ. Now, having said that, doesn't mean that because you're a Jewish person, that doesn't mean, the disciples were Jews, okay? And Jewish people still have a rich history and stuff like that. But the European Jews who went into Palestine versus the native Jews that have been always in Palestine are two different sets of people. The Jews that stayed in Palestine, the native Jews who lived in Palestine, are different in their mindset and their thought process about the Palestinian people, whoever they may be, whether they're Druids, Bedouins, Arabs, they see them different. And Palestine was a sort of kind of, even under the Ottoman Empire, it was a place of business and trade and olives and all that stuff. It's a fun place. And now it's almost like a desert of oppression with this one set of people from one place of the world, European people, pushing their colonialism on the native peoples. You know, making themselves seem like they're the only Jews when they're not. And why do they have to come from all over the world to this place? Why is it only foreigners are coming to this land? Why is it that the endemic people of the land are being chased out and foreigners are invited to come to the land? It's just weird. It's just very weird. The story is just so weird. You know, you're inviting everybody to the land and you're chasing out the people who were from the land and telling them they can't come back. What the fuck is that? So anyway, that's what I got for you guys. I am Christ, I am disciple. May not be a Christian. It's just that I'm appalled at the hypocrisy, the stupidity, and the fascism of some people. I'll catch you guys later. I am Christ, I am disciple. Peace.